Hi everyone, this is Naz for another Info.Tech.Journal entry. In this particular journal entry, I'll be introducing to you a video series that I'm planning to do. In this particular video series, we'll be covering Java, PowerShell, and a bit of Excel. What's the intent? The intent or the purpose is for us to make a Java application as a graphical user interface that allows us to run a PowerShell script that effectively, in one or two of the PowerShell scripts, will export it into a text file or a comma separated value file that can be imported in Excel for further formatting or presentation to allow you to share to your colleagues, friends, or boss. So in Excel, to make the formatting consistent, we'll be using a macro to make sure that the presentation of the information is consistent. So what will be covered in this particular video series? Okay, we'll cover some basic high-level overview of what's involved in Java, what is involved in PowerShell, and effectively Excel. In Java, we'll probably discuss some Java swings, how to get a progress bar, some concurrency, some string manipulations for directory traversals, and also how to execute PowerShell scripts from your Java code. In PowerShell, we'll be doing some simple analysis or some simple learnings on how to just move around and find your way to PowerShell. We'll maybe use an example from get process and one particular execution, and then we have also maybe piping the get process into a get authentication code signature to find which process is valid, not signed, or such and such. So the sky is the limit in terms of which PowerShell execution that you want to do, but we'll be doing some just basic PowerShell commands just to have a flavor of the possibilities of combining Java and PowerShell. And lastly, we'll be using Excel. So from here, Excel is pretty straightforward. We just want to record a macro to format the data in a consistent fashion. So learning highlights, what are learning highlights? Learning highlights are basically my stumbling blocks on what I found to be challenging or what I found to be difficult it's in making this particular application, so that my intent for this to share with you is hopefully you won't have to go through as much hurdles before you actually get this application to work. Putting it all together is again just combining the three elements that we have, Java, PowerShell, and Excel, to produce an application that you can use in maybe a school setting if you're like me, a student, or if you're a working professional. You can have this to produce an application for you to run your PowerShell scripts to share around with your colleagues and friends. Why do it the way I'm doing it? So if you have a Java application front end, it makes it not as daunting for somebody to use or run a script, because if you're like, let's say, a junior technician or just somebody coming in new, you might not have enough familiarization. So it just makes that threshold to start using PowerShell or start using some simple automations a lot less, because you already have the tools in place for you to use them. So again, here we want to automate some simple tasks. The tasks can be simple or complex depending on your PowerShell, and it's repeatable and produces consistent results. This is a very important part: repeatable and consistent results. Even with two PowerShell products, there might be some inconsistency in how they interpret your commands. Okay, let's just, for example, I'll show you in PowerShell, the two flavors of PowerShell. What are the some things that you might see if you're just starting out? Okay, I have now PowerShell ISE is running as administrator, and I have a PowerShell console here that's also running as administrator. This is one of the few things that I found to be inconsistent between the two. If you're like me, you like to use pipe more. What's a pipe? We'll discuss it in future videos. Basically, it just takes one command and go as an output to input to another command. So let's say if you have get process, for example, if you type get process, the list is quite long, and you don't want the list to show just one stream of text, and it's just difficult for you. You have to scroll up and down. So I particularly like to use the more command. In the more command, I just simply say get process, type to more. And as you can see, it's not just a stream of text. It stops at a certain point. So if you're familiar with Unix, Linux, or even just simply the more command, you can just enter here to show a line at a time, a space bar, a few lines at a time, and Q is just to exit out of the list. That same command, if you were to run or execute it in ISC, get process, no problem. You get a stream of text. But if you try to pipe it to more, it doesn't happen. So you've already seen there's some inconsistency between the two flavors of how you execute your PowerShell commands. Another example, here's a scenario. You are giving a colleague or a friend a PowerShell script for them to run on your environment. Okay, I have one simple script here. That script is already available. So this particular script is just a get process and get authentication code signature, just to verify if a particular process has been, the certificate is invalid, or access is denied for that particular process for you to verify the certificate. So you're giving this script. When you give this script, you just mention, okay, just run the script and get the output for me. So the person opens it in ISC and they try to run it, run script. If you notice here, it fails because in this system, running script is disabled. Right? But you told them, or the friend told you, that this script will work. So you try another way. You copy this particular script, right? And you paste it in another PowerShell console. And you press enter. The script runs, but now you're running into errors. If you notice here, it says access denied, squiggly, 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 because it says access term, particular name or function is not recognized. Here, I just want to highlight, if you copy and pasting the two, if you notice here, access denied, there is no quotation marks to wrap the two words together to identify it's just a single word or single phrase or single string. But in the original script, there's a quotation mark, right? But for some reason, valid here still has that quotation mark. So again, this is just highlighting some inconsistencies if you were running a script raw, or just providing the script to a person to run it. This problem won't happen if you copy this particular script and paste it here. You notice that the quotation mark is still present. And if you run this, it will execute without producing the same errors. Another way to do this, again, if the person that you're giving the script to knows how to bypass the policy of the disabled running of scripts on the system, then it's okay. So the other person might know how to do it. So they just open PowerShell, exe, and then they say execution policy, and then say bypass, and the directory or where the file is located. So I know where the file is located. I say D PowerShell, I know, working area, and the name of the script is process start, right? And you enter here. Okay, sorry, might be, okay, sorry, I misspelled my execution policy. Again, this is another example that might throw people off if they might misspell the command, and it just makes you feel uncomfortable, especially if you have a superior or somebody looking over your shoulders. So here it's gonna pause a bit and then it'll run the command. Again, even that slight pause between the execution of command might give you some uncomfortable feeling. So if you have a Java front end, graphical user front end, you can actually make a progress bar to show the user or the person that executing the command that the command is running in the background. It just gives you that slight confidence, right? So I'm just illustrating here the inconsistency just in PowerShell when you run a PowerShell script. For example, this is another inconsistency, especially if you're just producing reports. Okay, I have my process cert CSV here exported already, so I'm going to open it in Excel. So I have Excel open, so I'm going to put it in, open it in Excel. So now I have my CSV in Excel. So even with this example, there's multiple ways of a person to edit or present this information. But if the presentation of the information is different or slightly different from person to person to person, you as the person analyzing the information takes just that bit more time to figure out where is the information. The tables might not be in the same places. So if you were analyzing one or two, it's no problem. But let's say if it's like 40 or 50 and you're just looking or sifting through these tables, it'll get cumbersome because you just want to make sure that everything is in the same place for you to analyze it easier. So in order for us to make sure it's consistent, I've recorded a macro that's going to be part of this video series. I'm going to go to developer and I already have my macro saved. So I'll just run this macro. So once you run the macro ensures that your formatting for all your tables, even the highlighting, is the same. You can even add a timestamp. This is the day and time of when this particular file was exported and manipulated for presentation. So the person all the other person needs to do now is just save this file and give it to you, or save this file or give it to somebody who needs it. So now how do you want to bring this all together? How do you want to make sure that this can be produced repeatedly and consistently? So how do we do it? So now I have my Java application front end. So we just run it. So it produces this simple graphical user interface. And then here, like I said before, this is just an example. I produced two buttons here for just simply get process and invalid process cert. So let's run the simple one first, get process. So you notice here, that's a loading screen. That loading screen just gives you that bit of extra confidence that it is running and gives you a peace of mind that nothing is going wrong. Especially if there's something wrong and then every second matters. You just gives you that bit of confidence and calmness to proceed with the next step. So now you have all this information presented. This is simply from get process. So we can clear the output, or then we can just clear the output, select another action. Now this is the important part. This particular button integrates all the Java, PowerShell, and Excel into one. So I'm gonna press invalid process cert, and it's loading. And you can see now it's opening our Excel file. It was basically an export from our PowerShell command. Another thing that I would like to highlight is we're bringing this a step further. We don't want it to make this particular application just static. We want to make it portable, so you can just copy the whole folder, just give it to somebody and they can run it on another system. Of course, since it's PowerShell, it's going to be a Windows system. You can't run this on a Linux or Unix system without having PowerShell. The environment has to be similar to the tool that you're using. Now we're going to exit this. The final step would be you putting it into a batch file or a bat file. In the bat file, I just run it there. And let's open. Now I have my application again. Okay. So if you want to look at a bat file, we can just edit the bat file. Okay, and edit. So I'm going to change it just now. You saw just now we had that command console in the background. I'm just going to say W here, and then I'm going to save it, close it, and I'm going to run it again. Okay, now we have that without the additional console in the background. That's more for troubleshooting. So we'll even discuss that in the video series as well. So from here, you can continue, and you get the same thing again, and then you can just press invalid process, loading, and it'll run the same thing again, consistently and repeatable. Let's say that you gave this to somebody and the directory is different. So right now you notice that I'm in my school directory, which is I'm in Florida Institute of Technology, and I'm in my G directory. So let's say I've copied this and I've pasted it into my other directories. So my other directory here is again, that's G. So let's just go to D. Okay, D. Okay, now here it's the same thing but on a different directory. Just pretend that this is actually me giving it to somebody and they're running it on another Windows system. So we can also run that again. See the bat file open, and you open it again, and you can just do the same process again, repeatedly and consistently. Okay, so that's the final product for this video series. So the intent of the video series is for us to go through the process of making the Java front end with the PowerShell in the background and exporting it into Excel as the final product for us to use. Hopefully you like or you're interested in this application, and you will follow me along in this video series so that we can finally produce the product together and have a working product for us to use somewhere else, either at school, at work, and then gives you a good taste of simple automations that you can use. Thank you for viewing, and I hope that you subscribe, like this video, so you can see my future videos in this particular video series for Java, PowerShell, and Excel, combining them together. Thank you for viewing. I hope you have a good day.